I would say I started focusing more and more on studies. Whenever you are facing a challenge, how do you go about making the right decisions? What are the inputs that one should be focusing on rather than being distracted with the noise? How do I design a product so that consumers wouldn't have to go through days or weeks of education on how to use the product? So the product fail fast, take the feedback from the customer and use that feedback back into the product and improvise the product or even the service which is being offered. Important for the team leader to also go back and say that, hey, let's relook at our tenets.
Hello and welcome back to latest episode of GIBS IRE Talks podcast, powered by GIBS Business School, where innovation meets inspiration. And today I am your host, Dr. Srijana. In this digital era, how can somebody become an entrepreneur or a leader where everything is on the tip of our finger and on the screen? Today we have one such personality who is a leader in the field of marketing and advertising. He is one of the key leaders in the top brands in the world. We have Mr. Kapil Sharma, Director of Ads at Amazon India. Hello sir, a warm welcome to IRE Talks, powered by GIBS Business School.
Thanks for having me.
Sir, can you just tell me about your childhood, your education, and what motivated you to be in this field of advertising?
Yeah, so I was born in a town called Kota in Rajasthan, and I was very much fond of sports, so very dexterous, and I was mostly focused towards sports, and studies was a little bit part of my entire day. So I wasn't great at studies at that point of time, but my mother was a teacher and my father was working with synthetics. So mother being a teacher, she insisted on the fact that I need to get best of the education in the country. And so after ninth, I would say I started focusing more and more on studies. And that's when I started focusing on preparing for IIT JEE, and then appeared for the exam, went to IIT Madras, did mechanical engineering over there. And after that, I worked for a few companies, and then I switched over to do MBA again from IIM Calcutta. My focus was primarily on finance, operation, and it was more of a general management course, and it was really interesting to learn a lot of concepts and ideas from the faculty and the peers. And then I joined Amazon, my current company, where I have worked in two different roles. One was operations role, where I was leading a very large team, and then I switched over to be part of the core team, which was working to found Amazon Advertising in India, and that's when my journey started. My motivation to join advertising was primarily initially I wanted to learn about this new concept of how brands are being built online. And we started working on learning advertising solutions and how advertising solutions can enable brands to reach out to relevant audiences. It was a very exciting field. It was an upcoming field, very challenging. We had to develop products and solutions that can meet requirements of the advertisers. Some of these solutions we had to iterate a lot so that it can be perfected and being used by the advertisers over the period of time. But yeah, it has been an amazing journey, and I would say the right decision too.
As you said, you are from two prestigious institutes of India, IIT and IIM. And we also came to know that you are a silver medalist from from IIM Kolkata. So how these institutions have helped you to build your leadership skills? Can you please elaborate on this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think both of these institutions, be it IIT or IIM, I have a lot to thank because they really helped me in building some of the core leadership concepts that has helped me being where I am right now. So when I look at IIT, see, you don't understand that prior to IIT or prior to preparing for IIT JEE, I was mostly into sports, and then I suddenly switched to studies. and things like that. I came from a small town called Kota. So when I went to IIT, most of my classmates were very brilliant, and that's when I started learning a lot from most of my classmates. My faculties were awesome, amazing. They would talk about very fundamental concepts about each of the engineering principles. So I understood how having an in-depth understanding of each of these concepts can enable you to be successful. At IIM specifically, because it is more of a general management course. Here, I got an exposure to understand operations. I was very much into finance, so I learned about various financial concepts. I learned about HR. I learned about marketing, most importantly. So it was a very holistic, all-around development at IIM Calcutta, and with the great peers. Some of them had 20 years plus experience in oil and gas sector, or somebody were coming from army background. I had a lot to learn about how people are handling and tackling different situations at different point of time, and what challenges are they facing in the industry. So it really helped me, both institutions really helped me in developing the perspective that provided me a framework in terms of, hey, whenever you are facing a challenge, how do you go about making the right decisions? What are the inputs that one should be focusing on rather than being distracted with the noise or uncontrollables? So some of these aspects really helped me in being where I am right now, and I'm really thankful to the faculties at both the institutions.
That was great, sir. You have worked in different countries like United States, Mexico, and UK. How these global experiences have impacted your working style?
Yeah, that's a great question again. See, if I were to track my journey, while IITs and IIMs definitely gave me a very holistic perspective when I was interacting with my peers or my faculties who were from the entire country. So it became very important for me to understand their perspective and where they are coming from. We humans have preconceived notions about everything, and you can say that's a defect that we have. But as and when you start getting exposure to wider audiences, it becomes important for us to understand where are they coming from. And when I went to, let's say, other countries, it really helped me in expanding my perspective a lot from what I could learn from the by being in India. Some of the key things that I learned is there are things which are common in, let's say, in India and other countries, and there are things which are very dissimilar between India and other countries. When we are talking about commonalities, some of the challenges that the countries are facing, be it poverty or over urbanization, or political challenges, or the way polity is being changing over the period of time, all those things are very common in the countries. But when you look at certain unique aspects, like for example, the entire concept of do it yourself is very prominent in some of these countries, but it's not so prominent in India. Now, do it yourself has a bigger impact in terms of even the way the leaders are thinking, or even the way we are designing and developing a product. Excuse me. For example, when I'm developing a product in US market, which is what I was doing with my first job, we're thinking in terms of how do I design a product so that consumers wouldn't have to go through a days or weeks of education on how to use the product. So the product has to be very simplistic in nature. They should be able to use it on their own, and if there is a need and requirement of fixing certain things, they should be able to fix it on their own. So that concept of working backward from the customer needs and requirement is something which was very interesting, and I learned a completely different perspective, because here in India at that point of time, even now, many of the things are being done by somebody else, and most of us might not be doing things. So when you are designing a product, let's say in India, then you are saying that, hey, while we are offering this product to a consumer, but in reality somebody else might be operating the product. So you need to keep both the perspective in mind when you are designing and operating a product. Now, do it yourself, how does it bring in? Because things are a lot of standardized, and because there's a do it yourself concept in some of these countries, you have a tendency of working backwards to scale. We are thinking of, hey, how can I service the product to millions of customers? Wherein, if you are not doing standardization, let's say in many parts of India back then, now India is evolving very fast. Because things were not standardized at that point of time, it was very difficult to achieve the necessary scale that makes the businesses viable. But the good part is that in last 2 decades, I see India is also evolving in the same direction, and we are thinking about scale. So two things that I learned from my trips: thinking about scale is very important. Working backwards to by keeping customer in mind is very important, because customer is the king, and we understand what do they need, and we work backwards. So the customer wants a solution which is do it yourself, we offer them that solution. So this is how I changed my leadership style over the period of time.
That was great, sir. And you have been in this field for past 2 decades. So how have you helped big companies and big organizations to grow in the markets?
Yeah, I would say whenever I work with company, and I'm thankful for the corporates that I have worked with so far, and I've really enjoyed and I've learned a lot over there. When it comes to working on different aspects and things, there's one thing which is common across most of the companies, and that's pretty unique, and that is something which I believe most of the young entrepreneurs or the students should be thinking about, which is how do you work backwards from the customer. So once you have customer in mind, that's when you start working on, hey, what kind of features that we should have in the product, what kind of services should be offered to the customer so that they are finding it beneficial over the period of time. And then you also even customize and design your org so that it meets the requirements and the needs of the customer. It is imperative for us to take the feedback from the customers frequently, so that we can use that feedback and put it back into our product or services that are being offered to the customer, so that we can improvise and consistently keep on being relevant for the customer and meet their needs. So when I think about my journey of last 2 decades of working with various corporates, it's amazing the way most of the companies have focused on customer, and by focusing on the customer, how we have been able to scale the businesses.
Now, your specialization, we speak about advertising. It's a creative field and it's an evolving field. What are the roles and responsibilities as an advertiser you would suggest for future generations?
You mean for the advertisers or for the companies which are doing
For the advertisers, if somebody
For the
wants to
advertisers.
become an advertiser, what
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, so
suggestions?
when we are talking about advertiser, they are of different sizes and with different objective in mind. So let's say if you are talking about an advertiser who's looking to launch a new product, then it is important for the advertiser first to have a good product in place, and they have to quickly go to the market, fail fast, take the feedback from the customer, and use that feedback back into the product and improvise the product or even the service which is being offered. Then you have to focus on reaching out to relevant audiences and induce trials, because what happens is I might have a great product which is amazing, but if this product is not being exposed enough to the potential customers, then we may not gain traction as far as product is concerned. And that's the reason my recommendation to most of the advertisers is that fail fast, try to reach out to relevant audiences, get the feedback, use this feedback loop back into improvising your product, and then start thinking in terms of what are the other new innovative products that you can launch. Because many a times what happens, certain, for example, in certain type of products, let's say apparel, there is a predefined refresh season that they have because the customer preferences are changing. So in some of these places, advertisers or the founder or the company owners have to be very, very agile in terms of introducing the refresh product so that it is being consumed by the customers and is also being continuously relevant for the customers. Finally, it is imperative for the advertisers to start thinking of 360-degree advertising, and it's not only focused only on either performance advertising or brand building. Because if you are focused only on brand building, then very soon you will run out of budgets, and you will not be able to drive enough traction in your sales, and you will not be able to justify the spends that you are doing on brand building. And if you are focused only on performance advertising, then what would happen is that you will be reaching out to only a given set of audiences in the entire customer purchase funnel, and you will not be able to expand and acquire more new customer, which is very important for developing a long-term sustainable business. So this is what I would recommend to any advertiser if they are thinking of launching a product or building a sustainable business in the longer run.
Those were wonderful insights from your end, sir.
Thank you.
Can you share us few challenges which you have faced during the start of your career and how you have overcome, and today you are a leader here. So for the younger generation, you can motivate them by giving the examples.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that you can plan for many of things, and it is necessary for you to plan, but be agile in changing your plans and shifting your focus so that you are able to achieve your objective. Remember that these plans or the actions that you are planning, they are means to achieve an end, but they are not the end itself. So the process or the plan should not become the thing, is the most important part. And this is what I observed or I did in my journey early on. So when I graduated from IIT Madras, I was fond of mechanical engineering, and I just wanted to become the best mechanical engineer there. I joined the industry and started working on as a design engineer. I was fortunate to even go abroad to US and launch a product in US market. But very soon what I realized is that there is a limitation to the work that I was doing, and after some point of time it was becoming slightly repetitive in nature, and there were instances when I felt that um, because I was so much of fond of mechanical engineering, I realized that my knowledge itself was becoming stagnant. My learning was taking a big hit, and that's when I focused and said that, hey, this is the time for me to make a switch, and I don't probably want to be continuing in mechanical engineering. And that shift itself was challenging, because when you are a hardcore engineer, you understand data, you understand number, you are very analytically sound, and suddenly now I'm thinking about, hey, how can I switch into a leadership kind of a role where I continue to focus on data, information, everything, and I continue to build on my analytical skill sets, but I will have to manage different individuals and work with them and give them guidance in terms of how can they go about achieving the best that they deserve. Now this is where my journey started deviating, and it was slightly challenging initially, because when you are trying to become into a people manager role, you have to do a lot of course correction within yourself. You have to do a lot of introspection to identify, hey, is there a better way of doing things than I am doing right now? So I first was thinking of doing MBA from US. I got admits from most of the Ivy Leagues. I thought MBA is my ticket to most of the managerial or the leadership positions, but there was this subprime crisis which was brewing up in US, and that's when I thought, hey, the market is going to crash, and I would stay away from going to US for MBA. And I was fortunate enough, because what happened is within a month or so, Lehman Brothers crashed, and I thought, oh man, I think in the hindsight that was the right decision to be taken, because I don't want to be in US and get stuck in a place which is going through a recession. So I stayed back in India, worked in bank, had an opportunity to work across different businesses, understood how banking works. I was working there as a consultant, so I had an opportunity to work with many of the leaders. I observed them, what are their leadership styles and things like that. I observed some of my managers. Then I went to IIM Calcutta, and that's where I got holistic general management experience, which was really helpful for me. Later on, when I was working on different concepts and idea in terms of how to become an effective people leader, my wife was really supportive of me, and she's a born natural leader. And I picked up a lot of things from her to understand, hey, how can I go about changing my leadership style here? How can I improvise on my interpersonal skill sets so that I can communicate effectively, so that I can communicate what is there in my head. More importantly, because when you look at people, people understand that you don't have bad intentions, but many a times it is also the way you are communicating that becomes very important. You have to also communicate the vision effectively to the individual so that they understand where are you coming from. And obviously you have to win the right of becoming a leader for the team. And so all those things I went through, and this was all an interesting journey so far.
A very interesting journey, sir, from mechanical engineer to become a great advertiser.
Yeah.
So now I would like to ask you for few tips for budding entrepreneurs and few who are aspiring to become leaders in their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. So for entrepreneurs or even for individuals who are looking forward to strive to achieve great things in their life, while I would say that I'm still work in progress, whatever I've learned so far, I can share that. I would say integrity is very important. So when I was growing up, I observed my parents focusing on core principles like hard work, consistency. Both of them are very important, and that still stays with me. So if somebody is trying to be an entrepreneur or trying to go into a leader, you need to work hard. There are no shortcuts. That's something which I learned from the parents. Then I observed many of the managers whom I have worked with, and I understand that it is very important for you to have your core principles in place, and that includes one of the things is being fair. Now, being fair is a very subjective term, but it is important for a leader or an individual or even a company to be standing for what are their value system. And when you look at fairness, essentially people will be judging you against the value system that you communicate or you display on a day-to-day basis, because they will say that, hey, this person has this value system. Now if he's sticking to those value system, then the person will be fair. Otherwise the person is deviating from those value systems in the way they are acting, behaving. That means this person is not going to be fair when I'm going to deal with them. So being fair is very important. Having the right vision is very important. For an entrepreneur specifically, it becomes very difficult because they should know where their true north is, where they want to go. Now means to get there will change, and that your team will understand, because today you might be adopting this strategy, but very soon you realize that this strategy doesn't work, and that's when you have to shift the strategy. But as long as your team knows that this is the vision that my org leader or my founder is working towards, then they will rally behind you. So it's very important for you to have the right vision set in place as well. So then finally, I think you have to be a great people leader, no matter whether you are an entrepreneur or you are an organization leader. Because the fact of the matter is that no matter what you do, you can't do everything on your own. So by being a good people manager, you can attract the right talent, because people would understand you, what is your value system, whether you are fair or not, whether you have the right vision or not. People would understand whether this is the person I want to work with because I got to learn something from this person, and people will also understand whether this person will also help and support me in my own career journey. So it becomes very important for the founder to focus on these four core principle, or even an organization leader to four core principle, which is having the right value system in place, being fair. When I'm saying fair, it's about whether you are sticking to your value system or not, and people will judge you and gauge you on the action that you are taking on a day-to-day basis against those value system. Then do you have a vision in place or not? And finally, are you a great people manager? Does people really want to work with you, or is it like they say, hey, this is the person I would never want to work again in future?
That was really great talk, sir, from your end. Sir, one great thing that a leader should have is how to build a team.
Yeah.
So give us few tips on team building skills.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we were talking, right, being a people leader means that you have to focus on identifying right individuals who can further the cause of the team. So it's very important for you to hire the best person in the team, if possible. The second thing that one has to focus on to build a great team is to set the right value system in place, because that will help all the team members to understand this is the way the team will operate and these are the core principles that we will stick by no matter what happens. So if the team is focusing on, let's say, working backwards to customer, then they say that, hey, customer is the most important thing for me, and any decision that I will take will essentially be working backwards to the customer. There's one more thing that I have seen many of the teams doing, that they define tenets, because what happens is in the teams, no matter how great people are, no matter how much they gel well, it is important to have healthy debate and discussion so that the team is coming up with the best possible outcome for the customers they are working for, or whatever objective that they have. Here, it is important for them to have the right tenets in place, and they should mutually discuss and debate and have the tenets. And how this tenet works essentially is that whenever there will be an argument within the team members, so whenever there will be a debate, be it healthy or basically a constructive debate, they will go back and refer to these tenets and then say, hey, my tenet is this, which is I'll work backwards from the customer. I will focus on this area. And what they will do is they will essentially resolve the debate by using those tenets. Now, it is highly possible that the tenets may become outdated after 6 months, after 1 year. So it's important for the team leader to also go back and say that, hey, let's relook at our tenets, whether they are continuing to be relevant now. If they are not relevant, then they should go about changing those tenets. You don't, but they again, these have to be mutually agreed by the team. Now, other thing which I would say in building a great team is, we talked about the vision, we talked about the purpose, we talked about the tenet, hiring the best people. It is imperative also to think of situations when you are very swift in taking decision on when the team member is not being a great fit to the team or is becoming detrimental to the progress of the team. While the person might be great, but if the person is sabotaging or impacting the overall team culture, then it's the leader's job to be very swift and deterministic in terms of what actions to be taken. I mean, all people are good, there's no harm in it, but if the people are not going well with the value of the team, with the tenets of the team, then you can't have a dysfunctional team over the period of time. The other thing is, while there is this concept of team building that we keep talking about, I think while some of the teams or individuals, they do it in a very informal way, but I think if there's a deliberate way of doing this team building, it is really helpful. Think of it like this, that if you are, let's say, in a cricket team, and in a cricket team, if the bowler asks a fielder to be placed at one particular place and the fielder is not in sync with the bowler, then very soon what happens that there will be a drop of the catch or there will be a boundary. So it is necessary that there are necessary team building activities which are being done so that the team members are trusting each other. Team members are trusting the instincts of other team member, because these instincts might be true and may help you win the match here. So this is what I would say about team building.
That was wonderful insight from your end, sir. It was really a wonderful talk. We had a great time with you, sir. The talk was meaningful, it was insightful, and it is wonderful. It is great to have you here for IRE Talks today. It was a pleasure meeting you, sir.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
And with this, I hope our audience now understand that though the medium of business has changed, you always have chance to excel. So embrace your entrepreneur skills and see what comes out of it. As we wrap this episode of GIBS IRE Talks, please don't forget to stay updated, innovative, and build your entrepreneur skills. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel at GIBS Business School, Bangalore. Follow us on all social media handles to stay updated. I am your host, Dr. Srijana, signing off for the day. And this is GIBS IRE Talks, powered by GIBS Business School, where innovation meets inspiration.